It's June 17th, 2025, and we've got another Deadlock patch. Hey everyone, it's Connor here at Dead Unlocked, and yeah, like I just said, we've got a brand new patch that just hit Deadlock live servers. The update's gone through, so this is playable right now. I wanted to quickly walk through the high part of the patch notes, give a quick explanation, my quick feedback on kind of where I think this is going to take the direction of the game, and some things you should know for your games. So I'm going to quickly cover the main points, kind of the TLDR right away. That way you don't have to kind of sweat if you're not interested in one part of the video or the other. Let's talk about the main things first. Okay, so the main things, main points are mid-boss and blue lane look way different. So mid lane has changed. There is a lot of just different architecture changes that they've made to archways, and how you get to mid has changed. And the look of mid has changed. So if you haven't done this yet, hop into a custom game or get into a game, check this out. This is going to be one of the things that feels the most significant right away. Otherwise, we have some flex slot changes, things like that, some bounty changes, earn, walker HP. I'm not saying these are not important changes, they definitely are, and I'm going to get to them a little bit more in depth here later, but I wouldn't call them like game-breaking changes, right? A lot of these item changes, I would say, are actually the same way, with the exception of one here, and this is going to be Rescue Beam. This patch, I think, will also be known as the Rescue Beam Killer, as it gets a 100% conversion cooldown. That usually doesn't happen for items in MOBAs, usually doesn't happen to really anything in games with ability changes or cooldown changes being changed this severely. So I think this is a really, kind of stark recognition from the dev team that Rescue Beam has had its day and needs to now go to bed and die. And I think this item's still going to get bought, but really heavily nerfed. We'll get into that more later. The other biggest item to get changed here is Radiant Regeneration. Regen gets reduced, healing on ability cast reduced from 100 to 70. Healing on ability cast now scales with boons. So the item just kind of changes in general here. We'll get to kind of my thoughts on that later. Otherwise, we've got some hero changes. So these are pretty much all big, I would say. I think honestly, the biggest takeaway here is are the adjustments to Calico. You're going to see up here. This is a nerf, a significant one, and a nerf to Wraith. The way these notes look, at least, pretty much, if you see a hero's name here, it's not a good thing if you play that hero. We're going to get to those more here in a second, but let's go top to bottom first and take a look at these changes in depth, go through them. Fun fact, this is actually my first time looking at these changes, or right before I recorded. I haven't read these beforehand, so you're going to get some live reaction. And apologies that this video is coming out a little later. I'm actually helping run an esports camp right now at the college that I work at as well, so I was at camp all day. I'm super exhausted, but I really wanted to cover this. I want to cover every patch notes here that's at least worth something, so apologies for the lack of quickness getting this out, but I still want to be able to talk about it here on the channel. So let's take a look at all of the changes starting from the top here. If you're at this point in the video, let's buckle in and get into all these changes. All right, mid lane rework. Between Guardians, we've removed an Arch Monument, removed the rope entrances to mid-boss. I actually really like this change. I'm not sure about anyone else, but I always kind of thought it was not clunky to take ropes down to mid. I just didn't think it was as smooth of a movement ability to just have to take this zip line up and down. It just didn't feel great. Remove barrels and kiosk low cover, bridge with a larger version. Got stairway entrance to mid. Move the veil. Yep, new bridge. Extended the wall cover further towards the bridge. So just a lot of changes to mid, and this continues on in this section here. Started mid-boss sewer theming. I've actually not gotten a game in of Deadlock yet, so I'm actually super excited to see this. Added connection from rope shafts to upper area of mid-boss. Okay, so again, the rope mechanics is changing. I think them getting away from ropes in general probably good when movement is such a fun part of the game. Increase height of entrances to rope shaft mid-boss. Added a sloped mounds and sides. Okay, yep. And adjusted breakables in the underground, spreading those out a little bit more. I actually really like that change. I felt like there was just a lot of, you could just kind of slide through, sweep through the underground and get, 300 souls. Probably not something they intended. And I would say, I guess, at large, the other thing that's getting killed in this patch a little bit, I think, are tweaked, tuned, is just the breakable meta, you know, that you can just kind of roam and get a ton of farm solo lane. I don't know if it's exactly what they intended. Okay. Flex slots have now changed. Gameplay changes here. From 2 Guardians to 3 Guardians. Flex slot changed from 2 Walkers to 3 Walkers. So now this makes sense. A lot of teams were just leaving a Guardian or leaving a Walker because they really didn't mean anything. I actually do really like rewarding kind of that full map completion. You have to keep even pressure across the entirety of the map now in order to kind of maximize your gain. All right, this next one. Guardian and Walker total bounty is now split with all nearby players, including players that have done damage to it within 20 seconds. Nearby players get 40%, and the rest is split evenly around or with all 6 players. Okay, interesting. Troopers now do less damage to Walkers as well. Okay, this is actually super interesting. Total bounty split now split with all players, including players that have done damage to it within 20 seconds. Okay, so this is just, I guess, a way to push teams into team fighting more. Because the more players you bring to a Walker to fight and do damage to it, the more souls those folks are going to get. And everyone wants souls. And I guess unless you're trying to solo kind of greed farm someone, like a Haze or an Infernus, then you could send them alone. And that is going to really pump it. I mean, total bounty now split with all nearby players. That's kind of wild. That's going to be really interesting to see if this actually, I've said it rewards team fighting. Actually, I'm kind of eating my words. I think it actually rewards split laning. I think you're going to be able to greed a lot more on these split lanes. And so people are going to have to play a lot more defense under these towers and guardians now. Super, super interesting. Also, just another, again, more reason to not box farm in the middle of a game, because you need, you know, you're going to get souls from more places now, like these Walkers and Guardians. Cool. All right. Hero kill bounty increased from 25 to 1800 to 300 to 2000 over 40 minutes. Previously 45. Killing heroes no longer spawns orbs. Instead, the souls are directly added to the killer and the assisters. I like that. I have actually always hated that we get the same treatment as troopers. Kind of didn't make any sense. That's cool. Destroying objectives no longer spawns orbs. Instead, the souls are directly awarded to the killer and their team. Okay. Destroying objectives, yeah. Oh, okay, like Walker and Guardian. Yeah, makes sense. Cool. So just more confirmed souls. I guess this little orb spawning mechanic now going to be reserved for troopers. That's cool. Trooper base bounty reduced. Trooper bounty growth per minute increased. So troopers will get stronger as the game goes on. More reason to farm, less reason to box farm. Love that. Some urn changes here. Time holding the urn before taking damage reduced. So yeah, hoarding urn going to be less popular now. Time urn will auto run back to home regardless of nearby players reduced. Good. Time urn will wait for a nearby player to pick it up. Reduced. Okay, so they're probably watching Fight Night. The devs have to be, right? So there was a thing, I think, in last week's Fight Night. So by the time this video, the morning, it'll be Fight Night number 30. I think Fight Night number 29. I remember Hydration was on Calico, and he was just holding on to urn, running around and getting boxes, and then had Torment Pulse, so was farming lanes. This could not have been what Valve intended with all those mechanics, right? I don't think so, at least. Good on Hydration, though, for kind of exploiting that as a problem, but all of what we've just looked at, including the Calico nerfs that we're going to get to, literally all counter that exact playstyle. So I don't think we're going to see plays like that in Deadlock Fight number 30. But I could eat my words. Who knows? All right. Cleaned up how boons are distributed. Previously, some levels gave stat bonuses and some AP unlocks. Now every level gives one of each. Power rebalanced on abilities to be the same overall as before. AP reduction. Total stat levels increased. Okay, that one, I'd have to dig into that one more to find out like the real technical kind of value change of that, but interesting. Walkers are a little sturdier. More spirit resist, that's cool. That's going to make... Oh, spirit... Okay, spirit resist reduced. Okay, so... Yeah, so it actually makes the gun characters less essential to have to go split lane if you have a really powerful amount of spirit you could use. So like a Geist on full spirit could still go solo a Walker, or... you know, this could make a Bebop ulting a Walker better. Warden ulting in is going to be even stronger now. He did get nerfed, though, but still good. All right, the Soul Orb auto-claim radius reduced. Makes sense. Headshot multiplier reduced. Fix some issues. Okay, some quick ones here. All right, let's get into item changes then. Yeah, opening rounds. No longer works against objectives. Fair. Regen nerfed. Little regen nerf. Little regen nerf on healing booster. Spirit resistance reduced from 18% to 15% on Enchanter's Emblem. I actually don't think that's enough of a nerf. I think that item's still good. Still going to be just as worth buying as it was. Fortitude, damage taken cooldown increased from 12 seconds to 14 seconds, so you got to stay alone longer. Bullet resistance, spirit resistance, threshold for bonus resistance reduced. So that actually makes those items better, because you need less health for bonus resistances, I think. Hopefully. That makes sense, because these are pretty underbought by comparison to a lot of the other Vitality items, so that's probably a good change. Rescue Beam, destroyed, put in the ground. It would need a Rescue Beam to get it out of where it has been put, so that's tough. That's kind of a bar, though. Not gonna lie. Anyway. Radiant Regen, like we called out. Regen reduced. Healing on ability cast reduced. Now scales with boons. Tank Buster only goes on cooldown when it affects players. No longer goes on cooldown if it hits a troop. If an ability hits a trooper. Okay, well, I think that makes sense. Yeah, I think that makes it better. So you're not going to like accidentally proc it when you're farming or something. I think that's good. Good for Tank Buster. I think I understand that right. Superior cooldown reduction reduced from 25% to 24%? That might be like a really niche thing for like Fleetfoot or something. I really don't know why you'd reduce that one. It has to be a specific interaction, like some kind of constant uptime they're now getting rid of. If you know why they did that, let me know in the comments. If you're on the dev team, Yoshi, if you're in the comments, please let me know, man. That's crazy. But interesting. Okay, a little nerf. All right, let's look at our hero balance changes. Okay, some good ones here. I actually think, before I get into these, I almost couldn't have asked for a better set of hero balance changes. Also, tornado warning, Oklahoma thing, so my dog is panicking, pacing around behind me, so apologies for that. She's freaking out. We're okay, though. Let's get into this, though. Calico. Ava no longer automatically breaks boxes. Instead, you can use the melee hotkey to do a pounce to attack or break them. Okay. Nice. Thank you. Ava can no longer just absolutely farm. Cool. She gets her base health reduced and her base health growth reduced. Leaping Slash multiplier has been reduced. Return to Shadows tier 3 reduced from 30% amp to 24% amp. So all in all, I think the biggest thing that gets a hit here is Ava farming and health. Those are, I think, the two biggest takeaways. You're going to feel the Leaping Slash and tier 3, like, immediate insta-kill burst. That's going to probably be harder to do. Otherwise, though, I still think Calico's pretty good. Now, that being said, if the meta takes as big of a swing as I think it will, and we get totally away from kind of the constant going off lane to go do breakables, I do think Calico just becomes less niche in general and less of a pick. Still a strong hero, though, I think. Kelvin. Arctic Beam cooldown increased 1 second. T1 Arctic Beam reduced half a second cooldown. T3 range reduced by 3 meters. So just a little tweak to Arctic Beam. I think Kelvin gets out of this probably the best of anyone who's listed here. Geist, base bullet damage reduced from 26 to 23. Life drain, self-slow increased from 25 to 40%. So this actually sucks. I love running Siphon builds, so that is just a bummer for me in general. You're gonna feel that 15%, I think. Soul Exchange cast range reduced from 7 meters to 6 meters. That's actually a pretty solid percentage. If we were to call that out as a percentage change, that's pretty significant. So Geist, not a great. I mean, it's not horrible. Her grenade build is still completely in play for those just me that runs that. I love it sometimes. The biggest thing there is the life drain for sure. That's just gonna feel bad, and the ult thing is gonna be annoying. You're gonna really have to find ways to extend the range on that. Viscous. I'm trying to become a Viscous main. I am, and this is tough to see. Hitbox size increased, a little easier to hit him. The multi-bounce on Splatter gets tuned down a bit, which is good. And goo ball damage gets knocked down from 140 to 120. Not that bad, kind of like Kelvin. Just a tweak to an ability that Valve felt like was a little bit out of whack. with the goo ball. I agree, especially in my elo personally, you know, around that Emissary Archon zone where I think a lot of players find themselves. If you can control goo ball against some players, you're just going to completely take them out of the game. So that's probably, you know, that one might not be for the Eternus players out there, but that's for the players like me. So thanks, Valve. Warden and Wraith, all that are left here, and they get hit pretty hard. Last Stand no longer gets reduced cooldown when interrupted. Oof. That one in and of itself, that could have been all that was here. That could have been it, and it would have still been pretty bad. DPS reduced from 90 to 80. Tier 2 DPS reduced from plus 60 to plus 50. Spirit scaling increased from 1.4 to 1.6. Now that is interesting. I actually don't know how that would end up balancing out. I'd have to go in and test and see like how that felt versus the old one. It may not be that much of a damage knock, but it will be a damage knock in the early game before you're able to get any kind of spirit scaling going, and it's going to make playing that like hybrid gun spirit build even harder. You're going to have to invest in spirit if you want to play an ult build, and that's going to make Warden just a little bit less intimidating in general. So I think that one's going to be interesting to see. I think we're going to go back to probably the days of all spirit ward builds that are just last stand builds. And that's probably going to be his way to find a niche if you're going for that ult. But I could be wrong. That'll be interesting to keep an eye on. And then our friend Wraith. There's a lot here. Base health reduced. 700 to 650 gets the Geist treatment there. I think the Geist treatment. Am I right? No, the Calico treatment. Sorry. Anyway. Bullet damage growth reduced by 18%. Card trick damage reduced from 70 to 60. Card trick spirit scaling increased. Card trick tier 3 now also applies a 25% slow. Okay. Full auto tier 2 reduced from 4 to 3 spirit damage. And then Project Mind improved teleport targeting to remove case where Wraith would clip to, nearby geo intentionally. Okay. Like I said, I didn't read this before coming on. I was like, oh, Wraith is bullet listed here 10,000 times. Like, she's gone. That's not bad. Honestly, it's not bad at all. I really don't think this does much to Wraith's viability. Maybe, again, some of that early game damage is done to card trick, but if you could max card trick now and hit them, I feel like that's pretty good. So, all in all, some interesting ones here, y'all. I do think these are good changes, so my kind of take on them is what I want to give right away. I think these pretty much all make sense to me. I'm okay with redoing the lanes still. You know, I think where we're at in the development cycle is we've obviously changed all the items. Like, they're pretty much set. We've changed the map down to 3 lanes. We're cool on 3 lanes. But let's figure out how to best nuance it, polish it up, all that good stuff before we start finalizing details. So they're trying to get the overall architecture of the map where they like it. And I like this. I don't like the zip lining up and down to mid. It's supposed to be like this movement MOBA game, and I feel like just ziplining takes away from that. So any ziplines they can get rid of are probably good things to do. You need them at some degree because you can't just take stairs everywhere. I don't want to play Stair Simulator either, but a little zipline reduction I think is nice. I obviously like the rescue beam change. It shouldn't be that good of an item. It shouldn't be a must-buy ever. I don't think any item like rescue beam should be an item that every single player in a game runs. I think you should have 1 to 3 per team based on what you're doing. I think that's an optimal balance for that item. There's always going to be some items that you could have in theory 6 member or 5 members on a team or whatever buying. Items like Titanic Magazine, like that can always be good in just about any situation. Even if it's your only gun item, that could be a worthwhile item to buy. Same thing for like Enchanter's emblem. That could be an item that everyone has because of what it does, right? It's doing something for all spirit builds and fulfilling a green slot at a manageable amount of money for like a good early mid-game purchase. That's something that's pretty universally applicable, and that's a good thing, I think, for the game. The Rescue Beam is just not that kind of item. Like, it's a directional healer. It's very directly a support item, a support style, and I just don't think Deadlock wants every single person in every single game rescue beaming one another. I just don't think that's the game they want. So, good change there. Other items I think are kind of neither here nor there. Good changes. Now that I've read the hero changes more, I actually like them. I think that Calico getting hit the hardest is completely fair. I think deservedly so. I probably actually wouldn't have made the viscous changes. Like I said, goo ball can be devastating at my rank. The splatter one's probably the only one I really like there. But I kind of like, if you can control goo ball and the other person can't get away from it because of either lack of abilities or I guess they could just be perma-stunned and that just feels bad. But I feel like you reward the goo player there, but I could be wrong. And yeah, I actually don't think there's any other heroes that I felt like were way out of tune. What this patch feels like it's doing for me, and why I think this patch is a real winner, is it's doing something to change the overall way you play Deadlock. So the way we play Deadlock right now in the laning phase, in a big way, is you're putting a lot of pressure on Guardians early, because again, getting those first 2 was really important. And when you can, or maybe when you've won your lane, you're sending someone out to the jungle immediately, not necessarily to do jungle, just to go get breakables and come back to lane. Or maybe you set up a gank, but pretty much everyone is staying in their lanes. And I just don't know if that's the brand of laning that Valve is after when they're making this game, when they're doing these things. But I think what these gameplay changes do in particular, the changes to the urn, the changes to Guardians and how they work, the changes to walkers, right? I think all of this is trying to create a game that is obviously much more focused on the objectives and fighting in the game versus like something like boxes. I think boxes should always be in a game of Deadlock kind of similar to like a scuttle crab in League of Legends. I don't know if that's an odd reference to make maybe, but like that's something you do to get a little bit of sight. It gets you a little bit, but like in the mid game, it's really not something you're that worried about, right? I can't think of a better example right now, but it shouldn't be as imperative as it is now to go around and find breakables. So I think this targets that at a pretty core level, which I think is a good quality of life change. I will be super interested to see what it's like with this new bounty split with all nearby players. What that feels like. Do we see more solo laning because of that? Are we going to see more team fights? Is there going to become like a number of players that becomes most optimal to send to a walker at the 20-minute point? Like, is it just always good to send 4 players now and then go 1-1 or 2 and leave a lane open? Those will things that will, those will be things that come out of this. I'm super interested to see what it is. And I also think that a really nice quality of life thing that's going to get forgotten is that we no longer have to shoot orbs after killing another player or an objective anymore. I've always felt like that was silly for someone to just camp back and steal all the souls you just did from claiming their objective. Like, that shouldn't be a play style that really gets rewarded. So if the player gets the objective, they get rewarded. Objectives now mean more because you need all 3 to get flex slots. Flex slots are really important. So you are going to have to play for these objectives. That is going to be a much more core part of the game, which I think for Deadlock is a great thing. So that's going to do it for this set of patch notes. I wanted to run through them kind of all in one go here. Again, it's late at night. It looks like a cave in here because I really am doing this after a full day of esports camp. So at the very least, I hope you all forgive me because it took a lot, honestly, just to even get this video together. I'm so tired. I have to be up very early tomorrow, not gamer hours at all. So anyway, hope you all are enjoying the channel so far. I'm always open to feedback. This is a brand new Deadlock channel. I'm working on some more builds right now. I've got a 7 build I've kind of been experimenting with. It's pretty fun. And some other ones that should be coming down the pipeline soon. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to go back and get this video out, go to sleep, get ready for camp tomorrow. But until next time, from our house to yours, I hope you'll join us next time here at Dead Unlocked. We'll see you then.